Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, all Rotarians and guests. We are so happy to have everybody here with us today. Today is March 16th. We are the Rotary Club of Gainesville. At this time, for all guests and visiting Rotarians who are joining us virtually or on Zoom, please identify yourself in the chat. And if you're watching on YouTube, please register your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. So today we have Bob Crane, a visiting Rotarian, who is going to sing a special song in honors of St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to turn the program over to Bob.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, this is a song that's pretty well known around the world called Danny Boy. There's a sad story behind it, much like the sadness we're all experiencing on the Ukraine matter now, but it's a sweet tune. I hope we can make it work. Okay, Gordon. Oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you must go and I must slide. But come ye back when summer's on the meadow, or when the valley is ripe and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when ye come, when all the flowers are dying, and I am dead as dead I well may be, you come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an amen there for me, and I shall hear thou soft you tread above me, and all my dreams will warmer, sweeter be. Then you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. And now Pete Enwald to lead us in our pledge.
And in keeping with the Irish theme, which is Thursday, if you don't have green on today, you're okay. It's Thursday that's important. I want to tell an Irish joke. So, Patty O'Reilly was celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. And so the local news TV station sent out a reporter and a cameraman to talk to him about it. And they said, Patty, you know, we understand you're celebrating your 50th anniversary coming up. What's your secret to your successful marriage? And Patty said, well, he said, well, I've always considered me wife's feelings. I've always thought that that was very important. And so, for example, for our 25th anniversary, I took her back to Ireland, to the village where she came from. And she liked that. And so I was trying to recognize her feelings. So the reporter said, well, that's wonderful, Patty. You got your 50th coming up. Do you have anything special planned? And he said, well, yes, of course. I think I'm going to consider my wife's feelings, which I'm always trying to be sensitive to. And I think I will go back and get her. Would you join me in pledging allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and with justice for all.
Right. And Kevin Thorpe, I believe we have you on Zoom for our invocation.
May we pray. Lord, we are forever grateful for this day, for the privilege to assemble in your name, for the many great works that bring us all together. Thank you for giving us the ability to trust you both in times of peace and at times of war. We pray for all those throughout the world who are suffering and going through great periods of trial. Thank you for this organization. Thank you for today's event, for today's host, for today's speaker. We honor you in advance for your sake and for your glory. Amen.
Thank you very much. You may be seated unless you are a visiting Rotarian. I have a guest today, so if she will remain seated, standing, I will introduce her first. We have someone for the microphone. Okay, so it's okay, Monica, you don't have to say anything. My guest is Monica McMillan, a family lawyer here in town, a dear friend, and wonderful to have Monica with us today. So welcome, Monica.
Hi, today my guest is Dr. Charles Cobb from the University of Florida, and he is an associate of our speaker today, and he is the curator of historical archaeology at the Florida Museum of Natural History.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My guest today, I'm Nancy Hart, by the way. My guest today is Scott Sumner, the new Chief Financial Officer of the University of Florida College of Medicine. Yay, Scott.
We welcome you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My guest today is Mr. Tim O'Donnell, Rotary Club of Flagler Beach, in our District Grants Chair. Please welcome Tim.
Well, welcome, Tim. Okay, we're going to move into announcements. Scott Winsler, are you here with us today? Got a fellowship opportunity for us?
Normally TJ makes these announcements, but I'm stepping in on this case. By the way, TJ, I've got a great job for you if you ever leave your place at the Board of Elections. They've got an opening at the bicycle factory. They're looking for a good spokesperson. No, I'm excited because a week from Saturday, I'm leading a tour of Habitat for Humanity homes. We're going to gather at our new store, the new Restore at the corner of 23rd Avenue and 6th Street, 2301 Northwest 6th Street. We'll get peek around there, and then I'm going to get with Jason later on. We're going to reserve a van. I'm going to take you around and show you where we're building. We're going to show you volunteers in action and take you inside a Habitat house for construction. So if you're interested, please email me. My email address, I believe, is in the announcement on the flyer that comes through the email.
Thank you, Scott. Pete, I think you've got some competition on the jokes. Okay, Greg, you wanted to talk about the convention?
Thank you, Melanie. Yes, I have two announcements actually related to Rotary. One is the convention, which Melanie just alluded to. It's the Rotary International Convention. So we have a deadline coming up. If you want to get tickets at the early bird price, the end of the month, March 31st is the deadline. You need to apply for that. And I would encourage you to go. It's Houston. It's relatively close. It's going to be fun. It's going to be, they haven't had one in person for the last few years. So this will be very special. So please look at that. And if you have any questions, please contact me. And then the second announcement, oh, by the way, I wanted to just tell you, our district, of which Tim is in leadership in our district, we had over 100 Rotarians and guests registered from our district already, which puts us as the second best district in the world in terms of signing up for this convention. So please, let's make it the best and we all sign up. So please keep that in mind. The last thing is a district assembly conference will be at the end of this month, April 29th and 30th, location to be determined, but please keep that, mark that in your calendars and contact me or anyone in the club at leadership to let you know how you can sign up for that. Thank you very much.
All right, so this time I have the honor and privilege to introduce a craft talk. And for those of you who are newer to the group, usually a new or newer member gets a craft talk, but we realized that Scott Schroeder, while he's not new, had never had an opportunity to give his craft talk. So as he comes up, I'm just going to tell you, he and his wife, April, are wonderful entrepreneurs with several companies, one being Liquid Creative. I have been had the honor and privilege, got his permission to say that I have been their banker for many, many years, and we couldn't ask for a better Rotarian in Scott Schroeder. So Scott's going to tell us a little bit about himself.
One of my least favorite things is talking about myself. And I've been a Rotary member for about 4 years, and I've slid under the radar this whole time. But you guys finally tracked me down. So I've been a member of the Rotary Club here for about 4 years, and it's quite an honor to be a part of such a distinguished group of community members that are so committed to doing so many great things. And moved here to Gainesville in 1994, and Gainesville back then was quite a bit different than it is today. And part of that is because of, I think, Rotarians, a lot of the group here, committed to helping Gainesville grow in a responsible but proactive way. And it's been really wonderful to see the collaboration between the city and the university and the county and the Rotary Club and the chamber. Those relationships always weren't really great. Sometimes they're still not, but for the most part, we've come a long way in helping all work together to make Gainesville grow the way it has. I have my beautiful wife, April, started our company in 2007 under the brand Marketing Mud. And through that, she was just working part-time, doing graphic design work and selling promotional products like hats and mugs and stuff like that. And that business grew quite a bit. She wasn't planning on that, but it happened anyways. And we spun out a second brand called Liquid Creative. And that's a full service marketing agency that I run now. We also have another brand called The Business Report, and that's our commitment to the community on the business side. It was a publication that it was about to close and nobody was going to buy it. And so we ended up buying it, keeping it going. And its intent really is to just talk good business news about Gainesville and how we're growing in a positive and responsible way. The reason I joined the Rotary Club is because I heard that there were some really good jokes and incredible poetry. So it has not disappointed. But again, I appreciate being a part of this group where we make such great contributions, not only to Gainesville, but to the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. Great job. All right, so at this time, I'm going to turn the program over to our president, David Gracie.
Good afternoon, everybody. First, I would like to congratulate fellow Rotarian, my friend, Scott Schroeder, on finally doing his craft talk. And a wonderful family. April's a fantastic person, Scott's wife, and Scott's company, Liquid Creative, the one he mentioned that was spun off from Marketing Mud, actually hosts the Rotary Clubs of Gainesville Foundation website. Took me a minute to spit that out, but yeah, and you guys do a great job. So Scott, for doing your craft talk today, we've got the Rotary 4-way test plaque. Thank you very much. Okay, everybody, I'm going to try to be brief here today. We've got a wonderful program with Dr. McFadden, so I want to try to leave him as much time as possible, but I'll just give you a quick kind of update on our board meeting yesterday evening. And the first thing I want to mention is that Miss Stephanie Lobo, who's seated in the back next to Richard Allen, was approved as a new member. So let's applaud Stephanie, please. Welcome, Stephanie. And another important point of business that we covered was that we voted to commit $1,000 to the York Foundation for Ukraine humanitarian relief. So that was something that that was of course unanimous, and we're glad to have done that. And I want to mention that you know, a lot of folks have been bringing me checks today and frankly last week and throughout the week. But if you are so inclined, please reach out to me so I can help you be sure to make that check payable exactly how it needs to be made payable. And now I would like to bring up Susan Crowley to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, David. Today, we're really going to have a great talk from Bruce McFadden. Bruce is the Distinguished Professor and Director of the Thompson Earth Systems Institute at the UF Florida Museum of Natural History. A UF faculty member since 1977, he is the author of more than 200 peer-reviewed scientific articles and 2 books, both published by Cambridge University Press. He teaches and mentors most graduate students in paleontology, science, and society. During his career at UF, Bruce has received 50 grants in support of research and education, totaling $30 million, mostly from the National Science Foundation. His most recent NSF award was $1.3 million to use giant fossil shark teeth as a catalyst for students and teachers learning about AI, or artificial intelligence, in Florida's public schools. Bruce's long-term research has been on fossil vertebrates of the Americas, and his current interest is in getting the next generation of Floridians interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Please welcome Bruce.
Thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the warm welcome. Let's see if we can deploy the slides, please. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so what I want to talk about today, I have 3 topics. The Thompson Earth Systems Institute and what are Earth systems. The University of Florida President's Moonshot program that started in 2018, of which we're a part. And our particular program is called A Scientist in Every Florida School. And if I don't run out of time, I'll talk about our new initiative where we're using fossil shark teeth to teach kids about artificial intelligence in Florida's public schools. Okay, so in 2018, UF alums John and Beverly Thompson gave a major philanthropic gift to the Florida Museum of Natural History at the University of Florida to create a foundation, to create an institute, which we're now calling the Thompson Earth Systems Institute. And this philanthropic gift has money for an addition to our Florida Museum building in the cultural complex, as well as to support a program and an institute of which I'm the founding director. The Thompsons felt that the University of Florida scientists are doing a great job of producing new research that relates to the Earth and its natural systems, but we could be doing a better job of communicating what we do for the benefit of society. So my institute is not dedicated to the production of the research. It's dedicated to the aggregation of the science that's being done by faculty and students at the University of Florida, and then bringing this new knowledge to bear for the benefit of Floridians now and into the future. So what are Earth systems? Most people say, Bruce, you do Earth science, right? Well, I am an Earth scientist, but Earth systems is more than just geology and Earth science. It's the concept that all the Earth's natural systems, air, water, land, and life, or that could be the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the geosphere, and the biosphere, you can look at them individually, but really they're all interconnected. So the systems approach is the way we should be looking at the natural world now and into the future. And that's the concept of Earth systems. And my institute is dedicated to better understanding and communicating knowledge about Florida and the Earth systems. The other thing is, in addition to the natural systems of the Earth, we all know that humans are having a profound effect on the natural systems of the Earth. So the Earth systems science is not just about the natural systems, but it's about the human impacts on those natural systems as well. So I like to think about why should a third grader care about the fact that the polar ice caps are melting? Okay, well, if you live in Miami, then you know that there's an increased incidence of what's called sunny day or nuisance flooding. And this is a result of incrementally increasing or rising sea levels. So the atmosphere, the cryosphere, which is the ice on land, is melting and it's affecting the hydrosphere or the oceans. So everything is interconnected and everything will in one way or the other come back to have impacts or related to humans. And if you just think about what are the current Earth system's impacts on the four natural systems, the air, water, land, and life, the atmosphere is changing because of increased extreme storms, increased drought and pollution. Even in Florida, we have droughts, as you know. We have sea level rise and saltwater intrusions. We have sinkholes and aquifers. And then in terms of biodiversity, we have the loss of biodiversity and things such as red tide that influence our natural systems. This slide is a little out of whack. I'm sorry about that. I didn't see that before. Okay. So the Thompson's gift. John Thompson was a CEO of ExxonMobil for a long time, and his wife Beverly was a school teacher. So they wanted to integrate his interest in Earth systems with education. And we have two components of this philanthropic gift. As I said, there's a program which I'm going to talk about now, and we're currently starting the initiative. We're actually looking for architects to help us build a great new addition onto the front of our building, our existing museum building, Powell Hall, over at the UF Cultural Center. Okay. So we serve various audiences in our institute. We serve the scientists who are producing the knowledge. We help them to do a better job of communicating that knowledge for the benefit of Floridians and society in general. We're also, many of us teach undergraduates and graduate students. We're particularly interested in non-science majors who graduate from the University of Florida better able to understand the importance of the earth and its environment and be able to make responsible decisions as productive members of society. We also reach out to lifelong learners like you are. Let's see, 2 days ago, I was down in Punta Gorda giving a talk about the Scientists at Emory Florida School program to a fossil club. And there again, that's a lifelong learning audience. Policymakers, legislators, district officials, county leaders, city leaders are all other people that we would like to influence or communicate what we do for their benefit, so they also can make responsible decisions. And finally, the audience that I'd like to focus on for the rest of my talk today is K-12 education and outreach, which is something I'm particularly passionate about. And this relates to a project that was funded in 2018 called the Moonshot. So have you had any talks by anybody in the Rotary about the UF President's Moonshot? Okay, so then I'm not. So in 2018, President Fox challenged the faculty at the University of Florida to develop broad projects that would be game changers in terms of the future of Florida. And 16 proposals were submitted, and I think 9 were funded. One was on a cancer-free generation. The other was what's called iCoast, a coastal monitoring system to understand changes in the coastlines, et cetera. And then we were fortunate enough, our institute had only been around for 3 months. And I proposed a project called Putting a Scientist in Every Florida School. And that was one of the nine projects that were funded. And this is a pilot project. And our vision a decade from now is that UF scientists, including faculty and students from the Scientists in Every Florida School initiative, will visit every K-12 public school every year in every Florida district at least once a year. So that's a heavy lift. Now, if you think about it, the moonshots are generally heavy lifts. You think about Kennedy and in the moonshot in 1962 when he challenged the U.S. science and technology infrastructure to put a person on the moon by the end of the decade. In 1962, we weren't there. So for 7 years, U.S. science and technology was challenged by Kennedy's moonshot, or it's now called a moonshot, to incrementally build science, knowledge, and technology innovation to ultimately put a person on the moon. And large, seemingly unattainable projects now are called moonshots. Okay, and it's not just a destination of getting there, it's the process of how you build the knowledge and develop the projects along the way. And that's what we're doing right now. So the main components of the current moonshot that was funded by the president's initiative in 2018, it's a 5-year pilot project to understand how we're doing and to develop best practices for getting scientists into schools. We're focusing on public schools, all grades, K through 12, and we're particularly interested in what are called Title I schools, okay? And we hope, as I said, to reach and impact all district schools at least once a year. And we're on our way. I'll give you some stats for last year in just a few minutes. The content, we don't do everything. We don't do human health. We don't do robotics. We focus on the content of the institute that I'm the director of. So what can we teach? What can we help teachers teach about the future of Florida's Earth systems, air, water, land, and life? We've developed a statewide network of teachers and scientists of over 1,000 teachers and 750 scientists. Yeah, okay. We currently have 750 scientists and 1,000 teachers in our statewide teacher. It's a e-learning network where teachers can put in a request to have a scientist come and talk to their classroom about a particular topic or develop lesson plans or get involved in teacher training or professional development. So not every scientist is a good communicator, I can tell you that. And we vet our scientists, and we don't necessarily put all the scientists who want to go in the schools because frankly, some of them are not that good. So we interview and vet the scientists before they go in the classroom. We train them to understand how to better reach or communicate with K-12 teachers and students. Many of our students are appropriate age role models at different career stages. They don't all look like me. Aditi is a graduate student in the biology department from UF, and my student Sean here is talking to an elementary school group in Alachua County, and every one of the students or scientists that go into the schools are passionate about education and outreach and making a difference in Florida schools. We don't force anybody to go into the schools. It just doesn't make sense, and we don't need to. The interest among the scientists is so great that we can focus on those scientists that are going to be really good advocates or ambassadors for science in the schools. Okay, so we kicked off our moonshot project in the summer of 2019 with a professional development where 35 teachers came back from all over Florida. 35 teachers came back to school for a week and lived in dormitories, much the way some of them did when they were students at the University of Florida. And we had 5 days of lab work, and then they had a final presentation. So some of our teachers worked in chemistry labs, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner. In the lower left-hand corner, they're sorting fossils with one of my graduate students. And in the right, in a forestry laboratory, this teacher is coring the soil to understand the microorganisms that live in those soils. So each one of the teachers was paired in a laboratory at the University of Florida and worked with the director of the laboratory and their students to understand what they were doing in the laboratory. And on Friday at the end of the week, the scientists and the teachers made presentations to all of us about the lesson plans that they were in the process of developing that the teachers would take back into schools and implement for the benefit of the students. Okay, so this is a photo of what the group was like. There were about almost 3 dozen teachers and about a dozen scientists in this week-long professional development. And the feedback, the assessments of what we were doing were favorable, were very good as a matter of fact. And what
struck me was that we had a first year teacher who hadn't been in a professional development situation before. And she also was wanting to better understand science. And she basically said the fact that she could be a first year teacher embedded in scientist laboratory and sharing her enthusiasm with other science teachers from all around the state was really important and meaningful to her. So then we went on the road, okay, and this is a profession, and we have programs in Dade County, Lee County, around the Orlando area. We've had a professional development in Flagler County, Duval County, Leon County, Alachua County, and not to forget the Panhandle, we have a fairly strong presence in Escambia County as well. And one of our first large professional developments was at Booker T. Washington High School in Escambia County in Pensacola, where one day it was a teacher work day. We had 70 science teachers from Escambia County from all the grades who came, and we taught them about Earth system science and helped them to begin to develop curriculum and lesson plans that they could then implement in their classrooms. Okay. I should say that Molly, the young scientist in the middle with the white collar, yesterday defended her doctoral dissertation in the anthropology department. And 2 years ago, based on her work with the Scientists in Every Florida School program, she was heading for a job as a faculty member at a university. She said, forget that, I want to work in schools. So she is now a teacher in a high school in Georgia, but don't hold that against her, okay? Where she's teaching anatomy and physiology, which has been her dream job. And she came back yesterday to successfully defend. So Dr. Selba is a teacher and an alum of our program who teaches in a public school in suburban Atlanta. Okay, so we've gotten a lot of press in Escambia County. We've also got a really cool news clip. It's less than a minute. And if the technology works, this basically encapsulates what it's like when Molly went to a school in the Pensacola area. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Students in Escambia County getting a new perspective on science today. A scientist visited classrooms at Lincoln Park Elementary, part of a program called Scientists in Every Florida School. The initiative, led by the University of Florida's Thompson Earth Systems Institute, the goal to connect scientists with every K-12 school in 5 counties, including Escambia County.
So far, we've been visiting with the elementary school students, and it's been really productive, especially with the questions. They had a lot coming in. And so what we're doing is basically showing our educational journey and how they can become researchers.
Leaders of the program say because Escambia is a coastal community, they'll be able to teach students about things like sea level changes, saltwater intrusion, red tide, and algae blooms.
All right. So everything was going great until the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. And then, COVID hit. So prior to that time, we had developed in-person professional development training sessions like the one in July that I explained to you. And we had gone to hundreds of different schools for classroom visits, and then COVID hit and everything changed. Okay, we all know this. So we had to quickly, as people like to say, pivot and change from in-person, as you can see up at the top, to all virtual. And we had already recruited by 2 years ago in March, we'd already recruited our cohort for the second professional development in the summer of 2020. We'd reserved the dormitory rooms. The program was we had screened the teachers. We had 36 teachers again. And then we had to tell them that we couldn't do it in person, and we had to change to completely virtual, which we had never done before. Think about dealing with virtual walkthrough laboratories. It was a lot of work, but basically we were successful, and every one of the teachers who had signed up for the in-person professional development also opted for the virtual one, which was focused on what's called the nature of science, or how scientists do what we do, which is very important for teachers to teach. They don't only just teach the content, they also have to teach the process of science as well. So we had the silver lining of COVID was, instead of our space being limited to about 3 dozen teachers, we were able to have 55 teachers on a virtual week-long. Anyway, it's in the lower left-hand corner. Since COVID, we've done virtual professional developments, and we've also done virtual classroom visits. What we found through the virtualization of what we do is we could increase the number of events that we're able to do. Instead of me driving to West Palm Beach, giving a talk and turning around and coming back, you can do it virtual. And in the school year 2021, the year after COVID hit, we were able to accomplish. So there are 5 of us in the Institute, and we have a network of 750 scientists, and it's a matchmaking service. So we have 1,000 teachers, and the teacher says, I'd like a lesson plan on the Earth's magnetic field. And then we look in our database and see which geology student or scientist would be best matched to give that program. So anyway, last year we had 2,000 virtual visits in 42 counties in the state at almost 500 schools, and we were able to impact 55,000 public school students. Okay, likewise, we started to do what are called authentic research experiences, where we would take teachers out in the field with us to collect fossils. Toby has collected fossils with us at the Montbrook Fossil Site south of Williston in Levy County. And we wanted to get the teachers to understand what it's like to dig up fossils, to go on a fossil dig, and to discover something that had been buried for millions of years. So here we are back in November of 2019. These happen to be all Escambia County teachers that we met at that professional development at Booker T. Washington High School. And then they all said, we really want to go in the field. Your slides were really interesting. We want to go and dig fossils with you at Montbrook. So here we are. And the cool thing is that Rachel, who is wearing the blue t-shirt in the middle of the photograph in the top, found a very rare fossil horse that lived in Florida 5 million years ago. It's a 3-toed horse. And the lighting is not great here, but that's okay. But basically that's a reconstruction of what this pony style horse looked like when it lived in Florida 5 to 6 million years ago. And here a teacher was the first person to discover this particular tooth. And that's a very rare find. We got a lot of press in Escambia County about that. And that was very exciting for the teacher, because then she felt she was also making a contribution to science, and she brought that back to her classroom, and she was, as they said, a rock star. So then 2 years, we've had no fossil digs until last month. So we've initiated, or reinitiated, I should say, digs at the Montbrook Fossil Site. And this is on a very cold morning, coldest morning in February. Okay, and here we are assembling for a group photo. There were 9 teachers, and the rest of us are scientists from the University of Florida, and we're digging fossils. We're trying to stay warm, to be really honest, but once we felt better about it, we're starting to dig fossils. And here we are digging the fossils. Every teacher gets a meter square block or piece of real estate, and with screwdrivers and brushes carefully scoop away the sediment to find the fossils. And here in the lower left, Susan Hahn, who's a middle school teacher from Boca, has a fossil turtle shell, and the complete remains of that fossil turtle shell are seen in the lower right. This is a 5 million-year-old turtle that would have lived in an ancient river. Okay, so what will success look like a decade from the, we want to know, we evaluate everything that we do, and we collect metrics of success. That's what you have to do in these sorts of programs. But strategically, what success will look like for us, say in almost a decade from when we started, is we will reach more than 3,000 Florida public schools each year, and focus on those that have Title I emphasis. We will our professional development will result in better trained teachers and higher retention of teachers, hopefully. That's a major problem with the teacher workforce these days. We'll continue to develop and sustain a Florida scientist teacher electronic learning network. We will promote students' identity in STEM, which is really important. I didn't know that I could be a scientist until my 10th grade earth science teacher said, you could be a scientist if you want. And I had no clue. So that helped me. Mr. Greenstein helped me to understand that I could be a scientist. And then I identified with that potential aspect of being in my career. We promote 21st century skills such as critical thinking. Students don't just memorize facts in science anymore. They learn through what's called inquiry-based learning and authentic research enterprise. And then ultimately, if I talk to when I give a talk like this to superintendents, there's only one thing that they want to know really when it all comes down to, and that is everything you're going to do ultimately result in improved student achievement? And we're starting to track that. And our strategic plan for this project is that we will, yes, we will improve student achievement in STEM over the next decade. Okay, so this is my last slide. I just want to wrap up with that's an overview of the Scientists in Every Florida School program. But Susan mentioned that we've received a grant from the National Science Foundation to use fossil shark's teeth as a catalyst for getting kids interested in studies of artificial intelligence. So we're blending science and computer science and the old and the new. So the fossils, that's about a 10 million-year-old megalodon tooth, giant shark related to the modern great white shark. And kids are crazy. Every kid in third grade knows what megalodon is. If I hold up a picture of it's the new dinosaur. It's the oceanic dinosaur of Florida in terms of popularity. So if you say to kids, hey, let's work on megalodon and artificial intelligence next week for our lesson plan. Who wants to do that? They're all going to go like this. Oh my gosh. So anyway, so we're using fossil shark's teeth as a gateway for hooking kids and being interested in science. And this is a result of a National Science Foundation grant that we just recently received. It's a 3-year project, will involve 76 teachers, middle school teachers throughout the state of Florida, and will have that will impact between about 5,000 of their students. So with that, I'll bring my talk to a logical conclusion, and there is a little bit of time for questions. Thank you very much. Jeff.
Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute so we can bring you the microphone.
Hi, I'm Jeff Montgomery. I grew up in Gainesville and playing in the creeks and finding shark's teeth.
Did you find any megalodon?
Not that big. No, it was pretty good size. And you still can do that. I mean, kids are still doing it today, although I don't think it's legal. But kids are still finding shark's teeth.
We won't talk about that.
Okay. Could you tell me about those shark's teeth? How can there be so many? And are they available all over the country in creeks, or are they just in Florida creeks, or are they just in North Florida creeks, or how old are they?
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah. So Jeff, those teeth are about 10 million years old, and they were here when Florida was underwater, and the sharks were swimming around, and their teeth are shed throughout their lifetime, and then they settled to the sediments and were covered over by the sediments that form the bedrock of our community. This is not super rare. This is not super rare. Fossil shark's teeth are common worldwide. So maybe not in the same kinds of, say, ancient river environments or ancient shallow water marine environments, but you can collect fossil shark's teeth in Venice Beach, Jack's Beach, basically in coastal communities anywhere in the country, or anywhere that there used to be oceans in the area that's now land. You're welcome.
All right. I'm an architect. So when you started talking about your new building, my ears perked up. Usually when people talk about a building with me, they're talking about what it needs to do, right? So if I'm talking with a researcher, they'll tell me what the function of their lab. But you talked a lot about communication and sharing knowledge. So I'm curious, what do you think the new building needs to say?
Well, I think where you were, I was trying to anticipate your question. I think what you were trying to say was, what does the new building need to do? Am I being unfair there? Because I think what I would say is that our building needs to serve our new addition onto the museum needs to serve the entire state of Florida, and we'll do it through electronic dissemination of content and information to the school teachers, for example, through this program. But I'm not sure if I answer your question. You asked me, then what would the building?
What does the building need to say? Because the building presents an image about its function that.
Yep. It needs to say that it needs to send a message to the visitor to the museum about the importance of the earth and its natural environment, particularly as it relates to the future of our state.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Back to Shark's Teeth. It's a comment really. In the University Park neighborhood where I used to live, they have a whole committee now dedicated to preserving the creeks and making sure that people do follow the rules when they go out looking for shark's teeth. And it's not the kids that are a problem. There are groups that come in with industrial strength, digging, destroying the banks of the creeks, much of which is private property.
Right.
Are you aware of those efforts?
I am, and we actually discourage the use of, we discourage organized groups from going and digging fossils in the creeks because they encroach on private property. Does that answer your question? Okay, thanks.
How do you connect shark's teeth with AI?
I know that 1 o'clock is a witching hour for many of us, myself included, but basically we ask, we're going to ask in the most essential, in the essence of it is, we're going to ask the teachers to describe how would they describe the shark's tooth and what characters would they use. And then we're going to teach them how a computer uses some of the same kind of observations through measurement to describe and to be able to identify the shark's teeth. But it's not just that, it's also how the teachers would develop the curriculum that then could be communicated or implemented with the students in their classrooms. And we're not there yet. The scientists are going to start the first half of this process, and then we're going to help the teachers to co-develop the lesson plans thereafter. The process is called machine learning. The subdivision of artificial intelligence that they will be learning about is called machine learning.
Thank you, Bruce. Dr. McFadden, what a wonderful description of how much, to me, the Florida Museum has evolved. Now the Thompson Earth Systems Institute, it's just a lot broader reach than the Gainesville kids that lived here 30 years ago. Thanks for kind of helping us understand what a tremendous impact you guys have on the public school system in the state of Florida. To commemorate your time with us today and your talk, we have our Rotary coin. I call it the Rotary coin because on the front it has our motto, the Rotary International motto, which is service above self. And on the back it has our 4-way test, which is something we adhere to in all of our dealings with each other, professionally and personally. We run it by these 4 tests. First, we ask, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Once again, Bruce, thank you so much for your time and the resource you provide to the state of Florida. Okay, everybody, thank you for being here today. And we have our 50-50 drawing. Marcia's winking at me. She might know the number. I'm kidding. Of course she doesn't. 50-50 drawing for the Rotary Reading Safari this week is 580. 580. Have a good week, everybody.